What's up, everybody? It's the Golf on CBS preview show where we typically preview like this week's event, but it's Tuesday and the players just wrapped up on Monday. So we figured we should probably talk a little bit about the players before we get into Valspar week. Shane Bacon with Patrick McDonald this week. And Patrick, I want to start with just your experience on Monday. How did you take in a 9 a.m. playoff on the East Coast with probably I would say in my time doing this, the most fun player to watch just play golf versus, the Wai Yang, if you will, to Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I think we saw 6,000 people on the grounds on Monday. I mean, which is just flat out ridiculous. It kind of threw me for a loop, honestly. Had my coffee going, sat down, took it in. I totally forgot it was St. Patrick's Day. I walked outside. People were walking around with red Solo cups in all green. And I'm like, what the heck is going on out there? And so mentally, internal clockwise, it's completely messed up still. I feel like us golf guys, if something happens with the golf schedule that is a little weird, like Torrey Pines week, starting on a Wednesday, ending on a Saturday, it just completely messes up your internal clock. It's like the most sicko move out there. But took it in from the couch, and it felt like after that drive on 16 from Rory, I was like, okay, this playoff might go the way everyone expects it to go.
I think to your point, and I'll get into some stats in a bit on Rory, but this is a guy that dominates with the driver and hits it forever and hits it relatively straight. I think I wrote on Twitter earlier this year that I think he's the best driver of the golf ball in the history of golf. I had some older people not so happy with that comment. They're like, Greg Norman, equipment, things like that. I'm like, I understand all that. But, I mean, when this guy needs to step up and hit one, and smoke one down the middle, I mean, I can't really remember really errant tee shots he hit. Of course, he hit that one on 14 on Sunday. But, I mean, when you're the bomber and you're playing with a guy that, has picked up club head speed and, can get it out there 305 or something, but when you kind of lay it on the table, 336 in the middle of the fairway on that par 5 with the wind, I mean, you're kind of sitting there going, this might be it, right? I mean, he basically turned 16 into a par 4 simply by that tee shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And you heard him talk about it afterwards, saying, I knew how important that tee shot was going to be. He had an extra few drivers on the range, and that's a tee shot he had struggled with throughout the week. He was hitting that little cut out there, trying to eliminate the left side of the golf course most of the week. You saw him get a little impatient on Thursday. He tried to step on one, got left into the trees. Sunday, he was right, was still able to advance at greenside, but to put it in the fairway and give himself a wedge opportunity, I mean, if you're JJ Spaun, it's just like, okay, like, welcome to the Thunderdome. Like, good morning to you, JJ Spaun.
Yeah, I mean, the show began right then. And again, it's been so interesting to watch. I mean, you and I'm assuming you enjoy watching Rory play golf. I mean, I certainly enjoy watching him out on the golf course, when he's not kind of going through some of the stuff that happened earlier in the week. I don't think we need to get into it at this point. But, when you can lean on something and be this dominant, I think about Spieth with the putter and the iron play when he was kind of like, the world's best. You think about Scotty Scheffler and his ability to kind of avoid mistakes over the last couple of years. And obviously that's led to, comparisons to Tiger Woods, which is wild. I don't think we ever thought we were going to get there with Scotty Scheffler. But, when you're Rory and what he has been able to develop with the golf game over the last, let's call it 4 years. I mean, I know a lot of people talked about him being a complete player, but I just find it so interesting to watch him go about his business when he even said after the round, I didn't have my best stuff this week. I just feel like we always expected Rory to win when he had his best stuff, and then he didn't win when he didn't. And the fact that he's able to get himself in the conversation in these big events when he's not driving the golf ball well or the short game's fine. I mean, he's been putting a lot better over the last couple of years than he had previously. But are you surprised that Rory's able to contend and win golf tournaments when he's not swinging the way we kind of expect Rory to swing it?
I'm not. I think this version of Rory McIlroy is the best pure golfer of Rory McIlroy, if that makes sense. Shane, you look across the 8 rounds and 3 holes of the playoffs that he played in the state of Florida, which, as you know, tons of water. It's just begging for a double bogey here or there. Bay Hill, he went through that course without a double bogey. TPC Sawgrass, he went through that course without a double bogey.
I mean, that's crazy.
That is not like Rory McIlroy of the past. Think about just this time last year. he was trying to ramp up for Augusta. He was playing like every single week, and he had that fast, quick left miss off the tee, and he was hitting into everybody of water, it seemed like, during the Florida swing. And just going from last year to this year, he looks like a completely new man. And I really think those 2 rounds at Augusta last year, where he was paired with Xander Schauffele and Scotty Scheffler, seeing those guys who won 3 major championships combined last year and how they played, I think it honestly had a pretty big effect on Rory McIlroy and how to play golf. And we're seeing it materialize week after week. And to your point, it's even more impressive that he's doing this on non-driver heavy golf courses. Courses that make you think and all that stuff.
I mean, probably the 2 most on this stretch, right? Of course, Riviera not on the schedule this year, but Pebble and Players at Sawgrass. I mean, these are 2 golf courses where you're not just bombing it. You have to kind of use your brain. You've got to think about certain golf shots, where to leave it. Stats-wise, kind of looking at his 2 wins. I mean, first off the tee at Pebble, 17th at the Players, right? I mean, he lives in the top 3 there, right? Approach, he was 17th at Pebble, 5th at the Players, so improved there. Around the same around the greens, 33rd and 51st, and then top 10 both in putting. But I mean, I find it fascinating. He hit 68% of the fairways at Pebble Beach, and he hit 48% of the fairways at the Players. And scrambling, very impressive. I don't think people give Rory enough credit in terms of his ability to pitch the golf ball. I mean, we've talked so much about the wedges and the full wedges kind of in that middling part of his career when it felt like he couldn't take stuff off of them. Obviously, he's very good at that now. I mean, he basically didn't hit a full wedge shot the entire week at Pebble. But, I go to the shot in the playoff at 17, and I think about Rory, the Rory of old, the guy we knew. It feels a little like what we see with Minwoo Lee right now, where it's like, I can throw 105, man.
Yeah.
But if you want me to throw an off-speed pitch, I do not have that at all. I mean, that golf shot from this guy that is, again, a prodigy. I mean, this is a dude that has been great since he was 3 years old at the game. The fact that he's still learning how to play and he's able to step on the tee there. I think Faxon was like, his 9 irons is 168 club. I would imagine it's even more than that. I bet it's probably something in the 172, 173, realm in terms of how far he can kind of max that thing out. But the fact that he feels comfortable pulling 9 iron and hitting that little sawed-off 9 iron shot really hole high kind of told me everything I need to know about Rory in 2025.
Yeah, and I mean, I hate to go back to just 2 rounds in 2024 at the Masters, but there is a point on Friday afternoon when it was just blowing like hell there at Augusta National, where him and Scotty Scheffler were at the top of the hill on number 11. Same shot, and Scheffler hits this flighted iron perfectly to the middle of the green, and Rory tries to max one out wet. And it was just like right then and there, everyone's like, that's the difference.
Yep.
Like, it's as simple as you can see. It's right in front of you. That is the difference between the best player in the world right now and Rory McIlroy. And for him to really make a stride, not only that shot on 17, but I think he said the best shot of the week he felt was the second into number 2 on Sunday in that final round, that flighted 4 iron up there to 10 feet, setting up eagle. So to have that, and I know you brought in the driving accuracy, that's what honestly I don't think is getting talked about enough. On paper, you're like, oh, he drove it poorly, but he missed right all week, which is huge. You can't miss left at Augusta National. And you think back to the U.S. Open last year, Shane, coming down the stretch, everyone's talking about the missed putts, rightfully so. But you look where he missed. It was left and long, down 14 and on. Once he got the lead, it was long and left every single time with that miss. And if he is missing right and it's playable, we saw him effectively play out of the right rough all week long. And so even if he doesn't have his A game, like you mentioned, an underrated chipper and pitcher of the golf ball, a better putter also, it's just elevating his floor where he can compete in these big boy tournaments without his A game.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever would have believed Rory was the kind of golfer that could win with his B- game. And it felt like very B-C this week to me. Obviously, the leaderboard wasn't littered with the Scotties and the Xanders and the Morikawas that you kind of expect. I know Colin was kind of floating around for a bit, but you still got to beat the dudes. And I mean, I think that's one thing that we sleep on a little bit in golf is, you think about the great battles Tiger had in his career. It wasn't always Phil or Sergio or VJ, right? I mean, it's Bob May and it's Rocco Mediate and it's Y Yang. Like, if guys are on their game, they can beat the best in the world. And I mean, that's the big difference in something like golf versus, say, tennis, when you go to Grand Slam in tennis and it's like So Nadal will make it quarters of the semis, and then he's probably going to have a 5-setter. I mean, they lose occasionally in those instances, but I mean, most of the time the cream rises to the top. I feel like a lot of the time we look at the people these guys have to face off against. I mean, JJ Spaun was awesome. You know, I mean, I know he didn't play great in the playoff, but like he was incredible. And I mean, he took it to Rory when they were paired together. I thought it was a lot of fun to watch. I've got I'm sure you've seen this. Kyle Porter sent out a tweet on Rory. I think it's his last 25 starts. And you know, you expect Rory to always kind of be hanging around. And then you see something like this. His last 25 worldwide starts, 5 wins, 3 runners up, 14 top 5s, 22 top 25s. And I mean, he said at the end of the tweet, he said, you know, I mean, it's drowned out by what we've seen from Scotty, but like, is Rory the best golfer in the world right now? I mean, is that fair to say?
I think it is. I think at this very moment, he is the best. You look at that, you look at total strokes gained in 2025, he tops that list. I believe Scheffler's third. Morikawa sandwiched in between them. And just the way that he's golfing his golf ball right now is something that it's hard not to be excited about if you're a Rory McIlroy fan, where he looks like a pure golfer. It's not one of those instances where he's overpowering golf courses. He's not winning at a Torrey Pines where not a ton of strategy is involved. You can just wail on drive or wail on a mid iron. And so I think it's absolutely fair to say right now that he's the best golfer in the world. Obviously, that's not how rankings work. That's not how people see it, which is fair. Like Scotty Scheffler's number one for a reason. He's had a dominant stretch, but you look at these last 3 months and it's hard to say it's not Rory McIlroy's name at the top of that list.
All right. So I sometimes think about wins from like the really great players like Rory or Jordan or, you know, Phil, whoever the case may be. And it's like, is this kind of like a Wikipedia builder? You know, it's like, all right, now he's like more wins on the Wikipedia, or like you add a players and it's like awesome. I mean, if you hadn't won a players, it's a big deal to win one. Winning a second obviously puts you in some elite company. But, you know, with Rory, it's always going to come back to the majors, and we're always going to talk about the drought. Does this change the way you think about 2025 as a whole in terms of those 4 events? And, you know, you think about Rory, I think it was last year, he said, you know, I've won everything else. I mean, I've won FedEx Cups and I've won Players Championships. I've won all over the world. I've won the biggest events on the DP World Tour. I just haven't won the majors. Does this change anything in terms of what you expect or what you hope to see from Rory in the majors?
You know, he's been so good in major championships the last handful of years. And I think that's what's often lost with Rory McIlroy is, you know, during that prime, even though, like I mentioned, I think this is the best version of Rory McIlroy, but in his early 30s, late 20s, for how good he was, he did not give himself nearly enough chances at major championships. Yep. And so
like he blew 2 fields out. Like when he was just like, hey, I'm way better than everybody else here. I mean, what he won 2 majors by 16 shots combined. And it's like a lot of the other times he'd kind of step on the gas and take it out late. But I think you're right. It's like it was either talent took him to the finish line or he would not really be kind of hanging around.
Yeah, it was like the king of the backdoor top 5.
Always.
Like
Wikipedia, baby.
The most predictable Sunday performance. Let me take the under on Rory McIlroy's score when he starts at T17, T22, or something like that. And so I think his major performances have been awesome these last handful of years, just giving himself a chance multiple times per year, it seems like, especially at the U.S. Open. He's turned into a great U.S. Open competitor also. And I think what is encouraging about this player's performance and his first 2.5 months of the year is, like we mentioned, just how well-rounded it is and how it seems like he can get away without his best stuff and keep himself in the tournament. And for as good as he's been at US Opens and the Open, that has hindered him at Augusta National, where when he doesn't have his best stuff, it just seems like it's over for him. We're 2 hours into Thursday morning and Rory McIlroy is already out of this golf tournament.
He's like 3 over on Thursday, and you're like, dude, what's going on? Like, what are we doing? This isn't what we want to see.
Yeah, it's like you shot 29 on the back nine in your practice round yesterday. That was 12 hours ago. What happened between then and now? And so I think that's the cause for excitement, where I think he can get through those stretches at Augusta National where before he might not have been able to.
are we going to see him before the Masters? I was kind of going through the schedule. Like, what does he play before Augusta? I mean, what are we? What are we? 3 weeks away?
Yeah, so I heard a while ago that he was going to play Houston,
Okay.
and then after he said he was going to add a Texas event, I think it's going to be Houston instead of San
Okay.
Antonio.
Okay. I mean, I think he, I kind of go both ways. I'm like, you don't want to go 3 weeks off, but you did
Mhm.
just play some pretty compelling golf, and you obviously are going in with a lot of confidence. It's like if you go play Houston and you finish 18th, does that do anything, for you in terms of what you're going into? Like, you probably need the reps, and it's probably smart to play. But I almost kind of wish he wouldn't. Like, I almost kind of wish he would just take the time off. What did he say on Wednesday? He said he's been home like 1 week this year or something. It's
Yep.
crazy he's played so much golf. It's like the fact that he does get a little bit of time, I guess, quote unquote, off, and he could go like practice, maybe work on the driver a little bit. I would be okay if Rory took a little bit of time off. But I mean, like all of this stuff leads to Augusta, and I think that's
Mhm.
what's so fun about the players being in March is like it would be a bit of a slog kind of following Riviera until we got to the Masters. And the fact that we have this big event and you could see kind of the best in the world outside of the live guys going head to head. I mean, the fact that, you get a Rory win here. I mean, now he's won twice, right? First time he's ever done that lead into the Masters, and they've both been compelling and different victories. I mean, I would have to say this is the most confident I've been in terms of Rory's potential to win a green jacket since like, what, 2011, 2012? Like, this feels like it to me.
Yeah, and you look at the Masters the last half decade, it's rewarded the best player in the world, the
It's a
guy who's
great
playing
point.
the best golf leading up. DJ in 2020, Hideki's kind of the outlier there, and then you roll with Scheffler twice and Rahm, and going into Augusta as it stands, it could be Joaquin Niemann in some
Well,
circles.
obviously, I mean, number one
Yeah,
player in the world. Yeah, yeah.
that goes without saying. So this might go against Rory, but that is Rory McIlroy at this point. So I totally agree with you, and I think just the hesitation, if there is one, there's always some with Rory going into the Masters, is don't try to switch things up. We see it
Don't
every
Uber in any other clubs. Like, let's
every
just use what we're
freaking week.
using.
You don't need a helicopter Rotella in late Wednesday night. You don't need to switch to Scotty Cameron Newport
No, no.
in Houston
Let's go
because you
with the
need to be
bag that's working.
more creative on the greens. You don't need to play 1,000 practice holes or fly in late. Like, just do what you're doing, and believe that's going to be good enough.
Would you give this players like an A? I mean, I know Rory winning is a big deal. And I think that obviously when you look back on this in 2 or 3 years, you'll be like, oh, yeah, yeah. I remember second players for Rory. I think the lack of the big names involved in it late, like basically late Saturday into Sunday, Morikawa, like I said, was hanging around, but it was kind of Rory versus, those players that are having those weeks, right? JJ Spawn and Bud Cauley. I mean, Akshay being around was cool, I thought, for a bit. Was this a good players to you? Was this an okay players to you? Like Monday finishes, I think sometimes while they are fun, and I love the 3-hole aggregate at the players, sometimes the Monday can feel like a little bit of like a post St. Patrick's Day hangover. Like, did you love this?
I hate rain delays, and I know they
Terrible.
can't do
4
anything about
hours.
that. Oh my god, it was forever.
Oh,
And it makes it worse that they start early, so you're up at 8 a.m. tuning in, and so you're just like 12 hours of this, and then you wake up early the next morning to watch the playoff. And so it would have been awesome if they finished on Sunday. It probably
yeah.
would have gotten an A rating for me, maybe A minus because of the lack of big names, like you mentioned. But I'm a sucker for those storylines. Danny Walker, a server at what was it, Bahama Breeze or something.
Yeah.
Bud Cauley and his story as well, getting in the field on Monday. Danny Walker was the last guy in too. And Akshay, a young guy like him, battling back from that performance on Saturday. I love all those storylines, but I can see without the Scotties, without Colin really making a move, why some people wouldn't have liked it as much. So I have it in a B range because of the rain
Same.
delay and the Monday finish and everything like that. But I thought it was great.
Was there a shot you feel like, I always think about this, like 5 years from now, what am I going to remember about the 2025 players? Was there a shot that's like seared in the brain of Patrick right now?
It's probably JJ Spawns on 17.
Oh, in the playoff, the bad shot.
The bad shot.
Okay.
That's the one they're going to be showing on highlights. Like, oh, number 17
Sean
at the
O'Haire,
players.
Sergio, and it's JJ. Yeah, you're right. That's a great point.
and that dumb look on his face that's like, where is it?
Where'd it go, man?
Where to go, buddy?
Like, where do you think it went?
It's 8 feet deep, bottom of the pond right now. And I have a take for you, and I want to get your opinion on this. And he said he hit a great shot. He was on his TrackMan. He was practicing this shot. I think TrackMans should be banned for warm-ups before rounds.
I mean, I don't hate this take at all. I mean, I think anything that forces players to like lean into field. I mean, the fact that Rory and JJ Spaun are out there going, all right, what do I hit 146 or whatever the number was? Like the fact that you can just do that over and over and over and over again. I mean, it does feel a little bit like a cheat code. But that being said, it ended up screwing JJ. So like, I guess at the end of the day, maybe it helped Rory and ruin. There's the face, by the way. Nice.
Yeah.
There's your look that you were hoping to see. I mean, I think less technology in general for the pros would make golf more compelling in general. So absolutely. I'm probably with you 100%.
I think back to Bryson last year at the Masters complaining that he didn't have his foresight on the practice greens.
I know. It's the best.
He was like, I can't putt these greens without my foresight.
What do you want me to do? I mean, how am I supposed to play?
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, what did Byron Nelson do? You're like, well, he probably just figured it out. I was thinking about shots that I'll remember. This is kind of a weird one, but the JT birdie putt on 17 on Friday.
Okay.
Like Smiley and Ricky watching. He's going for this course record. He played terrible on Thursday, and it just never looked like it was going to get there. And it just was dripping and dripping and dripping and dripping. And then it goes right in the middle and kind of the putter race from JT. Like, I think Rory is probably my favorite modern player to watch go about his business when it's going well. JT is a close second to me because, when it's so beautiful when the wedges are dialed and he's rolling it well. And we hadn't seen him roll it well in 2-3 years. So the fact that he actually started to make some putts. But I don't know. For some reason, I was thinking about it this morning. And I'm like, God, I feel like that putt I'm going to remember. 18, I'm probably not going to remember much about. It blows it right and makes bogey, and you're like, dang it, that would have been cool to see. But God, that putt was just so perfect, and it felt like it had no chance of going in.
Yeah, that's a good one. I would throw Rory JT feels like a strong 1-2 for when they're on. Some of the best golfers to watch. I throw Hideki in there also.
Yeah. The
back out the top
Hideki Masters is the most romantic, sexy golf in the history of golf. That Saturday when he just did not miss an iron shot. I'm begging Augusta National to put that on YouTube just so I can watch it over and over again because you always have the final rounds on YouTube. I'm can we just break that rule so we can see basically iron shot from 11 on from Hideki when he went on to win? But I mean, good players. I'm with you. I think probably B's the grade. Obviously now we kind of lead into Valspar. We're going to get into Valspar in a bit. We got Justin Ray coming up with some stats, mostly some player stats. I don't think we got a whole bunch of Valspar stats from the man. I mean, he's been dialed all week at TPC Sawgrass, but I mean, a good week. And like I said, when Rory wins, I think it's a big win for the golf world. And I thought it was fun to see the way he did it. I don't know if it was the most compelling playoff of all time with the win and JJ making triple there, but Rory didn't make a par and wins a 3-hole aggregate, which is fun to see. So Rory's the winner. We'll get to some more stuff in a bit. All right, favorite part of the show. We get Justin Ray, head of content for 21st Group. I'm going to call you a Florida man at this point. I feel like you've been all over Florida. What is the last 3 weeks been for you?
You could make it the last 3 months because I've been going back and forth from my house in North Texas to West Palm, back and forth. I think I know the first names of all the security personnel at the airport here at this point, and I'm on a first name basis with the staff at this hotel. So, but no, back and forth. Was at the Players. Drove down now for the TGL playoffs. Match 1 last night was awesome. The building was rocking, and then we've got Atlanta and the Bay for the last spot in the championship series tonight.
Is that that's tonight? Okay, cool. That'll be on ESPN or ESPN2. Do you know?
7 o'clock ESPN. 7 o'clock Eastern.
7 o'clock ESPN. All right, Justin, we were just chatting about players. Obviously, ended on Monday, chatting on a Tuesday. I'm assuming you've got some Rory stuff for us because I don't know if you heard, he won the actual event.
He did.
Which was pretty exciting. So I want you to wow us with some Rory facts.
So he won despite only hitting 27 fairways for the entire week. He hit 4 in round 1. He only hit 5 on Saturday. It's the second fewest fairways hit of any Players champion all time. Incredibly, Cameron Smith only hit 24 when he won 3 years ago.
I was going to say that would have been my guess, by the way. I think Patrick is if somebody could be on that list, it's probably Cameron Smith.
Yeah, when he made every putt he looked at and chipped in a zillion times and was, hitting incredible recovery shots. But peak Cam Smith week that week. But I thought it was interesting that it's the fourth time Rory has won hitting 27 or fewer fairways. Tied with Jason Day for second most over the last 40 years. Tiger did it 9 times, so twice as much as any other player. But think about all those years at Torrey Pines where the rough wasn't super penalizing, and that's why Tiger and Phil were always they could miss fairways and be so good around there. But think about a place like that, some other events throughout the years, and of course Tiger's on top of the list and a zillion ahead of everybody else.
Patrick, the driving accuracy from the high speed guys always is a bit shocking to me because I always feel like the numbers should be a little bit higher. You just feel like you watch Rory and he lives in the fairway, and you hear numbers like that, and it's a bit shocking. But again, if you hit at 330, it's going to happen a lot.
Yeah, J. Ray, I'm curious about the tree on 6, and if it had any effect on driving accuracy, the scoring average for the week. I was out there early. I was telling the marshal to expect protesters because of that tree. I think she took me seriously. So Louise, if you're watching this, I do apologize. But if you have anything on how that tree came into play for this year's players.
Yeah, and look, I was riding around the golf course Tuesday checking it out, and that's the first place that I went was I wanted to see that tree. And in the practice rounds, the players were much further back, it looked like, than when play started. So I don't know if there were a few grumpy tour pros saying, I don't like this.
Doesn't sound like them.
That would never happen. But with the tree did have an impact, and whether I know nobody plunked the thing over the course of 72 holes, but there was a decrease significantly in driving accuracy. It was the lowest fairway hit percentage at 6 in I think 13 years. So there was a little bit of an impact, whether it was visually in the back of players' minds. And of course, we had some windy conditions that probably impacted that a little bit as well. But scoring-wise, it overall didn't have that much of an impact. There wasn't a significant figure there. But in terms of getting the ball in the fairway, it was the lowest we've seen in more than a decade.
Wow. Justin, I was out there probably, maybe in December for Q School, and we played it. And I remember, I think I played it with Kratzert and James Nitties. I'm like, they will never play all the way back because these guys are going to lose their minds. And so I was not surprised to see it bumped up just a little bit. But, I've listened to, like the Shotgun Start guys and a lot of the people that have talked about this. It's more visually intimidating. Like the golf shots aren't hitting the tree. It just plays with your mind. And I mean, you think about Pete Dye in general, right? I mean, that's a big part of what he did with golf courses. So the fact that it just existed and it's back, I thought was awesome. And Patrick, I think it's a great question because, again, it just sits there and it's in your brain and you think about it. It's like out of bounds left, right? If there's OB left, it's at least sitting there in your brain and you think about it. And we don't see a lot of like overhanging hazards that I thought played well this week.
Yeah. Just one more thing to think about, right? That's what Pete Dye does. It just makes you, worry about things that may not be, may or may not be there.
What else you got for us, J. Ray?
So the other thing I loved about Rory this week is he's done something this year that he's never done before, and that's win twice on U.S. soil in a calendar year before the Masters. So if you wanted any additional hype going into the Masters in terms of possibly completing the Grand Slam, again, I think this is going to be his 11th try to get the final leg of the Grand Slam. You've got that going for you.
Okay. And J. Ray, I don't think anybody's ever made the Masters the last leg of this, right? I'm pretty sure that's right. I think every time somebody's completed the career Grand Slam, it's been at one of the other 3 majors. And I think when you think about the Masters in general, and I've talked a lot about this with Rory McIlroy, it's like winning the Masters is the biggest feat in professional golf because you're now in the club and you're a part of this thing well beyond your prime and you being a great player. Like, you can be 80 years old and still go to the dinner and you still walk around with your jacket on, and it's very cool to be a part of. So, like, that's pressure. Now you're trying to do something that only a few golfers in the history of the sport have done, and you've got this enormous break. And, oh, by the way, you hadn't won a major since 2014. So, like, we think about Rory and the anticipation for this so much. I think sometimes we sleep on all the other points that come with trying to complete this thing.
Oh, and by the way, in 2011, you had 9 holes to go before you could win it, before you'd even won a major championship.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
It's just such a – I just really hope he's in contention. Every year I've hoped it because of just the drama and the tension and the added elements that it's going to add. But I've got a really good – it's J.J. Spawn-ish, but it's more TPC Sawgrass note I wanted to share. J.J. Spawn was so this is the 10th consecutive time a player has held a one-shot lead going into the final round of the Players and not won. And it's not just journeymen like J.J. Spawn. Names on that list like Xander Schauffele in 2024, John Rahm in 2019, 10 consecutive times they have not gone on to win. The last guy, incredibly, in such Players fashion, to go on to win with a one-shot lead, Stephen Ames in 2006, and he expanded his lead. So go figure. I mean, it's one of those things where Players Championship can give you our Craig Perks, our Tim Clarks, but also Rory winning it twice.
Yeah, that's fun. I mean, I guess, Patrick, it's got to be the most intimidating golf course to hold the lead. I mean, maybe Augusta just simply because of what comes with it, like we talked about a moment ago. But I mean, you were talking about it earlier, like all the trouble on the golf course and how many, bogeys and double bogeys that exist out there, like trying to maintain the lead or hold the lead. Like even Webb, didn't Webb have a huge lead a few years ago and he played pretty poorly in the final round?
His lead was 7. I think he ended up winning. It got down to like 3 at one point, I think, and he ended up winning, I think, by 5. But yeah, no, look, you talk about it with the Pete Dye and the things that may or may not be there, all the water hazards. The only other example I could think of, Shane, is a tougher place, maybe a super windy final round at the Open, where it's just so random and anything can happen. There's an element of that. But I think it's crazy that 10 times in a row a guy has held a one-shot lead and not come through.
Stephen
J.J.
Ames,
Spawn, man. Yeah, I was gonna say, you know what? This show needs more Stephen Ames. I'd say probably in general. So I appreciate that. You got anything else from Players Week?
Well, one more, because the name on this list is going to surprise people. Not surprising, Justin Thomas goes super low again when he shot 62, tied the course record, of course, on Friday. He's got 13 rounds of 62 or lower. That's the most of anyone on the PGA Tour the last 40 years. Second most on that list. Not Tiger Woods, not Phil Mickelson, not Dustin Johnson. Kevin Na with 11 is the only other guy with double-digit rounds of 62 or lower. You think about all those random Shriners, he goes super low. He went super low Colonial a couple of times. But Kevin Na is the only other guy with double-digit rounds of 62 or lower the last 4 decades on tour.
And Patrick, I mean, that's what he hadn't played on tour in 3 years too. Like
3
you
years,
think about that as well. Like that is a great one. That's a great one. Kevin Na's had his moments with the Players. I love that stat.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a hell of a pull, especially with I mean, he couldn't pull the trigger at the Players when he had the flow and everything that one year.
Right. That's right.
Kevin Na also on that one-shot lead list who didn't come through to win.
See, Jay Ray, it all comes back together. So you're going to be in Florida for a little bit longer, then you get to go back home, which is nice, huh?
It's nice. I'm going to actually stay here between the semis and the finals. So it's all TGL here the next couple of weeks, but family's coming out to visit in the meantime. So that'll be good. But yeah, no, it's going to be a sad day when I got to say goodbye to the West Palm Beach Airport and my man Garrick down in the lobby here at the Marriott.
His name. I love this.
Times. I mean, they're basically family at this point.
Jay Ray, where can people follow you, read you, all that good stuff?
Always during the biggest events at The Athletic, and then, of course, Justin Ray Golf on X, Twitter, whatever you're calling it these days.
The man, Justin Ray. Appreciate it. Talk to you next week, my man.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, Patrick, no offense to Valspar and Houston and any of these events. Focus in my life right now is on Augusta National. We're weeks away, which is very, very exciting for every golf fan and sports fan. I wanted to get into some power rankings, and I wanted to kind of do it every week until we get to the Masters. You go with that?
Love it. Love power ranking anything. Let alone
anything. You know what? You know what we should do maybe next week is we'll power rank the Masters and something random. You know, like best soft drink or something like that. All right. I want you to start. We're gonna go 5 to 1. I'm gonna let you start with number 5 on your list.
All right, number 5. I have a PGA Tour winner already this season.
You might have the same guy.
A former Masters champion.
Oh no, we don't have the same guy
as well, and an Olympic medalist. I'm rolling with Hideki Matsuyama as my number 5 guy. I know the form hasn't been as great since the Century, but Shane, I love guys in majors who have an elite skill set. And Hideki Matsuyama, for my money, is number 1 in the world around the green. The chipping, the pitching, everything definitely comes in handy there at Augusta National. So the driver looks to be coming along nicely after a little spell there on the West Coast, but Hideki's number 5 for me. What about you?
Hideki, not on my list, but I like it. And I think a little bit of it is just recent form. He hadn't played great as of late. But again, I'm kind of with you. I feel like Augusta is one of those places when you get it, you get it. And if you don't get it, you don't get it right. Hideki obviously gets it and has played extremely well there throughout his career. My number 5 is a guy that I wrote on Twitter, X, whatever we call it, a few weeks ago, is going to win a major in 2025. Number 5, Russell Henley is my number 5 on my Masters power ranking. Now, this is a guy that, I mean, he doesn't have a great record in the majors up until the last couple of years. Not a single top 10 in major championships until the Masters in 2023. Since then, T4 at the Masters a couple of years ago, T7 last year at the U.S. Open, 5th at the Open Championship. He's only missed 1 cut in his last 6 starts in majors. I just feel like trending in that direction. And I like kind of riding, as we said earlier about, Scotty over the last few years at the Masters and Jon Rahm. I like riding kind of the hot hands that are playing well early in the season. So Henley in my top 5. I don't know what you think about that.
I love that. It was actually a full year since I made the proclamation that Russell Henley was a top 10 player in the world. I got laughed at, scoffed at. People who I thought were friends, best friends, they wouldn't even look at me on the streets anymore.
It's terrible. I know it.
They walk across the street.
When your takes are so good that they get offended, it's really where you want to live in this space. All right, I'm going to lead into my number 4. I'm just going to throw this out there. A little all over the place. I just feel like this guy is due to win at Augusta at some point in his career. He's trending, I think. Justin Thomas at number 4.
Wow.
I just feel like we're close with him in his golf game. And that might be silly considering what he shoots, 78 the first round and then 62. It's like all over the place on the player's map. But I like a little bit of what I've seen from JT this season. And I feel like, again, kind of talking about Hideki and the short game, I feel like JT is one of the best in the world around the greens. And I'm just kind of waiting for the year that he's really in the hunt at the Masters.
I am going to say your number 4 pick is more bold than your number 5 pick.
I think that's right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm going with another major champion as well. Another Masters champion, that is. And someone not on the PGA Tour.
I know where you're going.
Haven't really heard a lot about him. He's not the number 1 player in the world, like we've alluded to, unfortunately. But I do believe he's the best player on Live Golf still, and that's Jon Rahm. I think he's coming into 2025, Shane, a little pissed off.
Yep.
He's not being talked about. He had a brutal major championship season last year. I know he finished top 10 in the Open, but wasn't even in the mix at all at the Masters, had to withdraw from the U.S. Open, missed the cut at Valhalla. Like, that's not Jon Rahm that we know. And so the form on Live Golf is, I think, tough to decipher just because his floor is so high. He's going to finish inside the top 10 every single week. I know they love to tout that. But
has he finished in the top 10 like every Live event he's played?
Every single one.
I mean, that is, I know the talent is obviously watered down after about the top 6 guys, 7 guys. That is still a pretty wild stat, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it definitely is. And the latest one they tweeted out was rounds of, I think it was like 21 rounds of under par golf in a row. And they're just taking out the miscut in Dubai to begin the year, right? On Live Golf, 21 in a row. But
next to that one, yep.
But give me Rahm, right? He doesn't have to deal with the extracurriculars like he did last year with the Live Noise, with the Champions Dinner, being the defending champion and all that. So I think he gets back on the major championship train this year and at least puts together a number of good efforts. And I think it starts at Augusta.
Not on my list. I'm kicking myself. I think that's somebody that deserves to be in the top 5. So I'm gonna say so far you're winning this power rankings. I'll let you roll into number 3 as well, since you're coming off such a hot pick. And obviously, this is probably where you're going to go, Joaquin Niemann. I'm assuming that's where you're at number 3.
Naturally. I mean, if you don't put the world number 1, actually, we're going to wait for Joaquin Niemann. Now that
hey, Patrick, real quick, is there a decent chance? I'd say there's a 80% chance these 3 are the same in both of our lists, but I'll let you go.
I would say they're the same, but I think they're going to be in a different order.
Probably right.
Okay. I am going with another 2-time major champion. A guy who contended at the Masters last year.
Yep.
And was in the mix until the back 9, really. And that is Colin Morikawa.
Yep. He's number 3 on mine as well.
There's just some guys, you said it about Augusta National. You either get it or you don't. And I would say the same is true about major championship golf. And we've seen Colin Morikawa roll into major championships without form and contend, right? 36-hole leader at Brookline. Last year at Augusta, no one was talking about him. Even at Valhalla, too, in that final group again. And I'm not buying into the, oh, he has poo-poo pants and he can't close and all this stuff. He's an unbelievable player. He's been unbelievable at Augusta National, so I'm putting him third.
3 on my list as well. It'll be interesting to where we fall with 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I've got Rory 2. I just do. I don't have Rory 1. I just can't put him atop the number 1 player in the world, the real number 1 player in the world. And Rory's number 2 on my list. I mean, he's playing great form. We talked about him for 25 minutes. The record at Augusta is the record at Augusta. And until he does it, I can't have him above people that have done it, especially people that have done it multiple times. So Rory's 2 for me.
He is 2 for me as well.
See, I knew we were gonna do this. Yeah.
Look at us.
I mean, you can't bump Scotty, right? We just can't do it. I don't care if he's not playing the way
Scotty's
he's been
your
playing.
number 1.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Who's your number 1?
Neiman. Come on.
Oh yeah. Neiman's major record is very polished, very impressive in the major championships. Loves to hit that booming high ball. Like, this is no knock on Joaquin Neiman. He's been playing great golf, but when you say he's the number 1 player in the world, people like us laugh at it because it's not true and it's silly and it's when somebody replied, I think somebody on Twitter was like, him and Scotty played in 12 events together over the last whatever many years. It's like he's never beat him, I think, a head-to-head in a round, or he's beat him once. I mean, Scotty's still, right?
Oh, absolutely. And like you said, it's tough to knock the guy who's won twice in 3 years. And even in the defense, only a handful of guys have defended at Augusta National. That's going to be the asterisk that everyone points to leading up to this, right? He can't defend. It's only been Faudo, Nicholas, and Woods. No way Scheffler can do that. I like that he has that experience under his belt, Shane. I think that's huge. And it's not like he played bad in his defense. I think he was second or first tee to green that week, just had a bad putting week and still finished top 10. So I think it's Scheffler number 1 until like he stabs his other hand leading into Houston or something, if something like that happens.
Where are you right now with Scotty? Because I mean, I know it's been a hot talking point. It's like, oh, he's frustrated. I mean, competitive people get frustrated when it's not going their way. Most pro golfers are going to get pissed off when they're not making putts and every 5-footer seems like it's missing and, nothing's kind of going their way. I mean, I thought the whole week was kind of encapsulated with the putt on his last screen on Sunday that he missed like a 6-7 footer to save par. And he was kind of laughing and chuckling to Teddy. But like, are you okay with Scotty? Are you kind of waiting for something? Are you a little, I don't want to say concerned, but like, where are you at right now with Scotty Scheffler?
I think waiting for something's a good way to put it. Obviously, the full swing's not where we have seen it. It seems like he's got that quick left miss in the bag with the body not rotating fluidly. And I think something that kind of stuck out to me at the Players' Championship is he made a number of strategic mistakes. It seemed like he missed on the wrong side of the hole a lot more often than we've seen Scotty Scheffler do the last 2 years. And we've always said Scotty Scheffler is the best course manager in the game. And so it seems like that has kind of leaked into his full swing. And so I would like to see that tighten up a little bit in Houston. And if it does, like ever so slightly, it's like, all right, Scotty's winning every major.
Yeah. I mean, like honestly, like finish top 5 in Houston and we'll all be good. I mean, I just think we've, and again, I mean, these are bad weeks. He's finished in 20th with Players. And what did he finish what did he finish in his previous start? I mean, it was like, he was T11. Top 10 as well, right? Or T11. It's like, he's not missing cuts. It's just, for Scotty, he lives in the top 5. When he doesn't, it is interesting. But that's our Masters Power Ranking. We are going to talk Valspar, by the way. We're going to talk Valspar in a moment. Again, I mean, a lot happening earlier in this week with the Players and Rory and all that good stuff. But we'll get some Valspar. I would say some focus on the field, and we'll do some picks in a bit. All right, Patrick, it's Valspar week. We're going to talk Valspar now. First question for you is, what are your thoughts on snakes in general? Fan, not a fan?
Out.
Completely
100%. Out. Have you ever been on, I don't know, like Bourbon Street or something and had one too many drinks and had the snake guy come to you? You know those weird guys who are just walking around with snakes? Like,
get out of my face with that stuff.
On that?
Thank you. Yeah, 100%. We have a snake that lives in our front yard named Barry, like a garden snake, and he comes out, in the spring and stuff. And I'm okay with Barry, but I'd say in general, out on snakes. Very happy not to live in Arizona anymore. Don't want to see any more rattlesnakes. Of course, Valspar Week means we talk snake pit. Before we get to one of my favorite segments that we've ever come up with, Pit of Despair, which I'm very much looking forward to this. Who are you most interested in terms of just watching them play this week at the Valspar?
It's got to be Xander Schauffele.
Yeah,
right?
Same for me.
I mean, this is probably his last start until the Masters. He was a late commitment to this field. It's going to be 3 weeks in a row now that he's testing that rib. He said he was on a pitch count, and he pretty much told his team, like, I'm playing so bad, I don't care about that pitch count.
Yep.
And that was on Friday. And then over the weekend, he goes, what was it, 81-77?
Yep.
Finishes dead last of those who made the cut. So it's got to be Xander Schauffele for me.
Yeah, only answer on the board, I think, is Xander. Just see what he can do. Obviously, not as much pressure. Golf course is difficult for sure, but I mean, it's a little bit of a different situation than playing the Players. Hopefully, I mean, I'd like to see him play 4 rounds. I'd like to see him, have a couple of good rounds, consistent rounds, maybe avoid some of the enormous numbers that we saw at the Players. All right, Pit of Despair. So this is a playoff, of course, the Snake Pit. So in our Pit of Despair this week at the Valspar, Patrick, we've got who's in the pit. Like, who's just off the map right now with their golf game? Who's kind of climbing out of the pit, seeing some signs of positivity, and then who's just, like, enjoying the sun? Like, who's well outside of it, sunscreen's on the face, looking forward to the rest of the year. It's spring. It's about to be summer in a lot of places around the country. Not necessarily players in the field this week at the Valspar, by the way. This is just, like, professional golf in general. I'll let you start with like in the pit, man, like brutal right now.
Yeah, he's in the gulag. He's trying to get some grub from whoever will. This boy's starving, Shane. Just getting nothing out of his game. It's in disarray. He is in the field, which I was surprised by because I kept on scrolling the odds and I couldn't find his name, but it's Viktor Hovland.
Yep.
His last 5 starts have been cut T22 at Pebble, cut. And the iron play actually doesn't look that bad, but man, everything else is just miserable for Viktor Hovland. If you had to guess what his data golf ranking is, what would you say?
I mean, like in the 50s?
46. So
okay.
I guess better than expected. But for someone who, I mean, even when he was bad last year, you have to realize this guy almost won the PGA.
Yep.
And he finished top 15 in the FedEx Cup through the Tour Championship, despite how bad it was. And it doesn't seem like he has any semblance of that form either, which is cause for concern. What about you?
Also, my guy in the pit is Viktor Hovland. Okay. A lot of the stuff you said, I wrote down as well. I mean, it's wild to think. What was that? Was that 2 full years ago when he won the 2 straight events into the season? And it's like, when can we get to the Masters? Like, let's go with Viktor Hovland. It's just been a lost man since then. I mean, you mentioned had a chance, obviously, at the PGA last year, but it's just wild. Like, that golf swing never seems like it can get out of sync. And it just, like, consistently is out of sync right now. The pitching, the putting, all that stuff is just, it's all over the place. And I feel like you can see it on his face, too. Some of the guys that are, like, struggling, like you hear, like, obviously, Max has been struggling over the last, year or so. But like hearing Max talk about his golf game, you do hear hope in his voice, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like when you look or see Viktor on the golf course right now, it's like, head down. I don't want to be out here. This stinks. Like, why am I not one of the best in the world? And like, it just doesn't seem like it's getting any better for the guy,
Yeah, it's an undergrad or it's a recent post grad who thought his 9 to 5 was going to be everything he imagined, and he's just stuck in a cubicle. Can't get out.
Like I don't. There's not a bonus at this job. Like, what are we doing here? This is
gray
brutal.
walls everywhere.
I got to get a second screen. It's almost March Madness. All right, climbing out of the pit is a guy I had in my top 5, by the way, at the Masters. JT again. Okay. Seeing some positivity from JT, seeing some signs of life with the golf swing. We've seen some decent putting rounds from JT over the last couple of months, which obviously has been a part of his game that has just been really, really bad the last couple of years. So I feel like JT is my guy that he might not be out of the pit, but like he's nearing the top of the ladder.
Okay. Some simpatico here. Not where you think I'm going to be going, but the guy who JT beat in a playoff at Southern Hills, Will Zalatoris. Seen a lot of good signs out of him. Obviously, the finish on Saturday. Not one of them, but this is a guy, he got to 11 under in the Players Championship, made that quadruple bogey there on 14, unfortunately. But Shane, this is someone who I've taken the wait and see approach following everything with his back. And there's some good, some bad last year, but the iron play this year is looking a lot like that Will Zalatoris we know. And he's a guy you always have to have circled, not only with major championships leading up, but with Augusta National in particular leading up, with second, T6, and T9 in his 3 appearances. So he's climbing out for me.
Yeah, the ball striking really up until 14. I mean, it was windy and it was gross, and he just like was hitting these absolute darts, and it seemed like the one guy that was not bothered by the conditions around Sawgrass. So I like Zalatoris. Yeah, don't put that up. It just makes me sad when you see it. The 8 at 14. That was I haven't played tournament golf in like a year. Yeah. And it's the first hole you hit it, and it's like, you know what? This lie's not that bad. I can get it up to the green, and like it immediately hits a branch and kicks out of bounds. You're like, all right, so I'm not going to qualify. Is what you're telling me? That was the 8 we saw there. All right, enjoying the sun. This man is like, peak of the world, like just loving life. I got Sepp for mine.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I just feel like Sepp is just continuing to impress. Last 10 worldwide starts, a win, 5 top 11s, 8 top 20s, 1 miscut. Expecting him to be on the Ryder Cup team. I'd be surprised if he's not, but I just feel like Sepp is like, the pit isn't even in his mind anymore. Like he didn't even know where the pit is.
I love that one. I love all things Sepp. And I went with a fellow Georgia Bulldog, and I think the sun is even shining on him more after our Masters discussion. I'm talking the UV was 7. Now it's 9. And he's bronzing out there. He's in Shane Bacon's top 5 power rankings for the Masters. It's Russell Henley.
Let's go,
Russell. Getting off the schneid there with the win at the API. Just unbelievable, consistent golf. And he's got his Georgia tournament around the corner where he's played well recently. And so I think the easy answer both of us could have picked Rory McIlroy.
Of course.
Right? He probably needed SPF 50 for his fair skin, but we're going with a couple SEC boys instead.
We'll see Sepp Russ final pairing Sunday at the Masters. You and I will be we'll be smiling our way to see how that plays out. All right. Last thing we do, can win, can't win. Which I mean, listen, this is just honest. We're throwing some names out there we think can win the golf tournament, and some that we don't think is going to win this week. And I'll roll first with my can win. I got Corey Connors. I think can definitely win this week. I got JT. Talked a lot about JT, I feel like, this week. I feel like he's on the list. And then there's a guy named Sam Burns that I feel like should probably be on the can win list at the Valspar.
Okay. This is going to make for an interesting conversation shortly. I will do my can win also. It is the boy in the sun right now, Sepp Straka.
Yep.
I think he can definitely win. I think Will Zalatoris, again, I believe he can win. And then maybe a sneaky one coming off a really good start last week, Lucas Glover. I think he could win this week. Yeah,
I like the Lucas pick a lot. I just feel like Lucas has just kind of been hanging around. Like, I love how passionate he was on some of those putts coming down the stretch.
Yes.
Like, he thought he could win the Players, which was like so cool to see. All right, can't win. And I'm assuming what you're saying is some of the people on my can win list are on your can't win list. Can't win. My first one is Xander. I just don't think Xander's winning this week. I'd love to see it. I think it'd be great. Somebody on my can't win list that you were just touting, Willie Z. I just think might need a couple of weeks following what happened. And we saw, don't show the scorecard again. But just the stumbles. I think sometimes you got to take like a week or two to just digest what had gone down. And then Adam Scott is on my can't win list with this week. I just feel like Adam Scott's a little lost right now.
Feels personal.
Might need a reset before the Players, but before the Masters. But yeah, that's those are my 3 on the can't win list.
Okay. Can't win. I'm glad that you went across the aisle first with the Willie Z barb. Can't win. I'm just looking at the odds board here. Tommy Fleetwood can't win. Coming off a brutal upset loss last night to New York Golf Club. He has to be reeling.
Probably reeling. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know how he's going to. I don't even know why. I can't believe he hadn't WD this week.
Exactly. Sent out a tweet about it. Was definitely him and not his management. So Tommy Fleetwood can't win. I agree. Actually, I'm not going to agree with you there. I'm going to say Justin Thomas Can't win.
Can't win.
I am concerned about his floor performances greatly right now, and especially in the state of Florida.
It's low, man.
Yeah.
It's like well down into the basement when it's bad.
And then lastly, can't win. Corey Connors. Just gut call. Can't win.
Okay. So that leads into our actual picks because my pick is Corey Connors. So you and I are like really dueling out right now. That's my pick this week at the Valspar is Corey. Who's your pick?
My pick's Sepp. I'm going with Straka. I think he gets number 2 of the year.
I love that. I'd love to see it. Do you have a long shot pick? Like somebody well down the board?
I've got a number of disgusting picks. Max McGreevy at 90.
Okay.
Playing some really good golf. I have one at 600 to 1, Shane.
Who's that?
And he shot 3 rounds of par or better last week. He's a winner a couple years ago, multiple time winner on the PGA Tour. Emiliano Grillo at 600 to 1. Yeah.
Don't call me Grillo. Grillo is your guy. My long shot's Bud Cauley. You know, it's like ride the momentum wave. Let's go. I mean, why not do it? Why not this week? Coming off a great week, maybe a bit disappointing in terms of the way it went down at the end, but I like riding momentum. I like players that understand how to play Florida golf, and so I'm gonna lean into Bud Cauley around the snake pit. There you go. I knew we were gonna talk about the Valspar, by the way. I'm so proud of us for doing that. Off the players, obviously thinking ahead of the Masters. Patrick, thank you for your time. By the way, I really appreciate it. By the way, nothing happens if our wins either don't win or do win. Like nothing happens to us. We just move on to the next week, and you guys can call us geniuses or complete idiots. But always fun to do this. Looking forward to the Valspar. And like I said, the countdown to Augusta is on. We'll check back with you guys next Tuesday.